Famcast Media. Famcast Media. Bitch.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, persons of all ages, welcome to the most exclusive group in the wrestling community. And now, your hosts, first, from Omaha, Puerto Rico, Macho Rodriguez, and his tag team partner from New Brunswick, Canada, God's gift, Tyler Taylor! ¿Cómo estamos, mi gente? We're doing a special edition this week of just me reviewing SmackDown. Tyler's a little held up at work. We have lots to go over in terms of how we want to dissect AEW's Wembley show. We will do that together later, but for right now, let's just go over what happened last night on SmackDown because it felt like a pretty jam-packed show. We start off knowing that it's a special show. It's possibly the farewell show for Edge. And they're celebrating the 25th anniversary of his debut in WWE. Now, let me tell you something. As someone who started watching Edge from the very beginning, from 1998, I can tell you he is one of the most iconic superstars we've ever seen. What he means to me personally is just that outcast, the guy who doesn't get along with the rest of the world. That's what his original character was portrayed at. He was kind of like a loner. And it always looked like he was in the streets of New York. And since I used to hop the train and go over to New York City, it felt more personal to me. We then move on to another recap of the Bloodline story because this is SmackDown, so we are going to focus on the Bloodline and things like that. But the amount of recaps that we've been doing recently in wrestling, it just it makes me think, where could this time be used properly? Like, where could you take this recap time and apply it to make something else better? And all I could think of is the women's division. I really feel like they should shorten the recaps. We don't need to see 5-6 times a show, one storyline, when you can take those minutes, those empty minutes, I call them, and just apply them to women's wrestling. But SmackDown starts off with a Grayson Waller effect. And God, Grayson Waller is one of the most over cats in the business right now. He is doing really well for himself, guys. He has Rey Mysterio and Santos Escobar come to the ring to celebrate their new United States Championship that they won last week. And obviously, Grayson Waller does his best to throw a little monkey wrench into this group. The first thing he does is he congratulates Rey Mysterio on winning the United States Championship, and he throws a little dig in there into Santos Escobar for not being able to compete against Austin Theory. And Santos kind of dresses him down. He does all the classic white meat babyface stuff. But to me, it feels a little force-fed, guys. It feels like Santos is trying to convince the audience that he's a good guy and that Rey Mysterio is his mentor. So when he ultimately turns, we're very surprised by it. So we move on from there. Austin Theory comes out and he's angry. He's just mad. He feels like he had the impromptu match. He prepared for Santos. He wasn't prepared for Rey Mysterio. And side note, I want to point out that putting the title on Rey Mysterio for this group, it was the right decision right now because it doesn't seem like Santos is over with the crowd. And Rey Mysterio is always going to have that babyface pop. To my recollection, Rey Mysterio's only booed twice in his career. Once at the Royal Rumble, where everybody wanted Daniel Bryan to enter, and once at WrestleMania when he defeated Kurt Angle and Randy Orton for the World Heavyweight Championship. I think the crowd knew what was up back then. They didn't like that he was only winning the title for one reason, and they booed him. If you don't believe me, go back and watch it. WrestleMania, I believe it's 22, and it's Kurt Angle, Rey Mysterio, and Randy Orton. When Rey Mysterio wins the World Heavyweight Championship, that Chicago crowd boos him. Anyway, We're going back to this, and Adam Pearce comes out with LA Knight. LA Knight cuts a simple promo, just meat and potatoes, lets them know that it doesn't matter who has the title because the title's coming home to him. From there, we move on to a Austin Theory versus LA Knight match, in which, some guys work each other really well. I think these guys need a little bit more time together. It definitely seemed that they were getting to know each other in the ring. And to have a really good dance partner, you have to have those live events. So that way what we see on television is at least at minimum solid. I didn't see that out of this match. It was kind of underwhelming, which is very surprising because I think Austin Theory is one of the best talents in the ring. LA Knight is very old school. He feels very much to me like that brawler type. He seems like Austin after the knee injuries. If you know, you know. Anyway, from there, The Miz comes out. He costs LA Knight the win, and Austin Theory picks up the W here. So it looks like we're moving into that category. The match itself was about 10 minutes and 10 seconds, which is just a quick roll-up. And we go back to some backstage stuff, which we have John Cena, Sheamus, Natalya, Miz, Charlotte, Sami Zayn are all paying tribute to Mr. Adam Copeland, also known as Edge. And they are telling the world what Edge means to them and what he means to Canadian wrestling and what he means to wrestling in general. And it is beautiful. It was honestly the best part for me was having John Cena there because John Cena versus Edge is one of the greatest feuds we've ever had the ability to watch. We do see another video of Edge's career where we see him sitting in the audience asking Bret the Hitman Hart a question about professional wrestling. And, I just love this. I love how Edge just feels like one of those guys who was always like us. Like I read his book. And I'm going to review his book. That's actually going to be the next book that I review on TikTok, and I will do so on the next podcast as well. I'll be saving that for the podcast next week, honestly. But when I read his book, it really felt personal to me because when I went to go train at Jersey All Pro Wrestling, it always felt like nobody believed in me except for one person. And that's kind of the sentiment I got from his book. Like, Edge, it felt like he only had one person that truly believed in him. But I don't want to spoil my review, so we'll talk about that next week. Going back to the ring, we have Charlotte and Bianca versus Damage Control. And I like that Dakota Kai is here because one of the things that I hate about injuries in professional wrestling is that they're just sent home and then we forget about them. And it's clear that Triple H and Creative do not want you to forget about Dakota Kai. She is important to Damage Control. She is a massive, massive part of that group. So having her with Bayley and Io it's essential in my opinion. She needs to be a part of this group. So, there's some double teaming and Charlotte she gets a lot of the heat here, but there was a really botchy spot here. I don't think that Damage Control, I couldn't tell if it was Bayley or Io that messed this up. But you could tell that whatever they had discussed in the back leading up to the match, just kind of giving you a peek behind the curtain, that at that very moment, Charlotte was supposed to slowly get to Bianca and kind of miss the tag. And Bianca and Charlotte looked very confused. It was a very bad moment. And finally, Io gets over there and she stops her. But I don't know. I just feel like quirks like that can't happen on live television, especially on like a live broadcast like Fox. But, the match itself was pretty good, though, for phenomenal performers. You could say what you will about the women's division, but these four women, they are at the tops. I mean, between them, Rhea, Candice LeRae, Asuka, they're all amazing performers. This is the healthiest women division that we've had in a very, very long time. But they're given a lot of time here. They get about 13 minutes and 50 seconds. So already they have more time than LA Knight and Austin Theory. And I think that's wonderful. Let's continue to give them time. So they get that. After the match, we go to the back and Bianca Belair's doing an interview. Kind of classic white meat babyface stuff. And then she gets jumped by Damage Control, and they Pillmanize her knee. I mean, it is a really good segment. In my humble opinion, what I would do with this, how I would further the story, is I would have Bianca Belair miss a little bit of time. Eric Bischoff used to say this all the time: the absence makes the heart grow fonder. Keep her away from television. Have Charlotte battle the Damage Control herself. And then when Bianca finally comes back, then you can possibly move her to the heel side. Or she comes back and she's as hot as ever. Either way, I'm excited because Bianca Belair is, well, she's one of my favorites. I just love everything she does. She is phenomenal. She has just gotten better and better. She is the classic quote come to life. She is like fine wine. She gets better with age. The more and more she works, the better she gets. From there, we have Street Profits versus some enhancement talent. I'm sorry, guys. I'm just kidding. They're wrestling the OC, but the amount of losses they take, it does feel like they're enhancement talent, doesn't it? I do love it, but geez, man, they have a new look, a new attitude, a new finisher. I don't know what the finisher is called, but I will explain it to you here. Angelo Dawkins picks him up for, I believe,
Famcast Media. Bitch.
About that, guys. It looks like YouTube tried to send me on a commercial break. So he sends him up for a high-low, and then he turns it into a neck breaker from Montez Ford. It is a really good move, and honestly, so simple. It looks super safe. There's no way. I mean, obviously, there's freak accidents, but I love the move because it is as simple as the 3D. It's you're being protected by both of the wrestlers, and that's great because some moves from back in the day, some tag team moves are pretty rough. The Doomsday Device being one of them. Yeah, again, I just want to point out that 3 minutes and 10 seconds to tell a story doesn't feel like a lot of time, but I do really appreciate what WWE is doing with the Street Profits. Just a slow burn. Also, one thing I should note that Tyler likes to bring up a lot is he's really hoping, and I kind of agree with him, that this isn't called the Hurt Business. We don't need them to be a continuation of that group. Let Bobby Lashley lead this group and let them have their own identity. So, guys, here we go. Here's my pet peeve. Once again, we have a recap. And it is a recap of the Bloodline blow-up last week with Jey Uso ultimately quitting. And we have Kayla Braxton backstage interviewing Paul Heyman as he is giving the most bland answers you could possibly get. And he's kind of annoyed that Kayla Braxton has heard rumors backstage of the possible demise. And, you know, he just kind of lays into her a little bit. It's fine. When it was announced that the Bloodline were not going to be at SmackDown this week, I was really looking forward to that. And being that this was the Edge show, I thought that they would play more into that, which they did. It did honestly feel like it was all about Edge tonight. But I was really hoping that all we got was like a quick glimpse into what happened last week. And then we moved on from there and we just continue with the show. Help us build other stars. Like we could have had almost just squash somebody. We could have had a lengthy promo from LA Knight. There could have been more people praising Edge backstage. We could have heard like a 5-minute segment from someone like a Christian Cage where they just like get him to do like a cross promotion type of thing. Obviously he doesn't need to point out the company he works for, but I don't know. It just feels like they don't want you to forget about the Bloodline. Almost like they're trying to tell us like this is still the most important story being told. And it's like, guys, we get it. It's been the most important story for 3 years. Sometimes like give us a couple weeks of a breather. Let Roman get his heat back. Let fans be angry that Roman is the WWE champion and he's not on television. Because clearly, for those who aren't paying attention, clearly the objective one of the things that they use to get heat for Roman Reigns is by not putting him on television because it makes marks angry. There is so much complaining about Roman Reigns not being on television. It honestly feels like, why not use this heat? It's just natural, organic heat. They're angry that we're not having him defend the title. And back in the day, like when I was a little boy, yeah, world champions defended their title maybe 4 times a year. I believe Macho Man Randy Savage in his year run only defended the title once. So, I mean, it's just the way it happens. And it's clear that Triple H and creative want that to be the way that we see Roman Reigns. He is absolutely like the whole show. To use Rob Van Dam's, he is the whole fucking show. He is. That's the problem. When I remember going through therapy, and my therapist telling me once that I had made my children too important to me, almost that I had forgotten about my own life. And that honestly, like that kind of is like, it's applicable to what we're watching with Roman Reigns, because it's almost like WWE is making him too important, that we're forgetting that we have other characters to build in the company. Moving on from there, we have Beth Phoenix and some people in the front row, and commentary brings up the rumors that this is possibly Edge's retirement match. Now, this is pretty interesting to me, guys, that they actually talk about this. It's not just us speculating anymore. Now it's being brought to the light. So Edge comes out, and him and Sheamus work, and this match has been, it's been something that a lot of people have wanted to see over the years because they have this good friendship, and Sheamus is a good, safe, snug worker. And Edge, he kind of wrestles a similar style. So they have a pretty solid match here, guys. And for television time, they're given 19 minutes and 4 seconds. That is a lot of time. And it definitely felt like a swan song for Edge. And it absolutely felt more so like a goodbye. But I just want to give my opinion. I do not believe he retires, because Edge is one of those guys that respects the business so much. I do not think he wants to go out on top. That is not something. I've seen a lot of people complain about that over the past 24 hours. They're talking about how Edge didn't do right by wrestling because he went out with a win. And when he was forced to retire the last time, he went out on a win, so he wasn't able to go out on his back, which is what you do. Sheamus is not a new worker, guys. There is nothing that Sheamus can get out of beating Edge in his final match. Nothing. Unless you're moving Sheamus into a feud with Roman Reigns after his most recent comments and you're trying to build him up as this monster, it honestly feels like a waste to have Edge lose to a guy like Sheamus. My honest opinion, the best way to do it is to have Edge lose at WrestleMania to Dom Mysterio. To me, that's the best way to have Edge go out. Have him go out and get massive heat on a guy like Dom. That's the best way to do it. So just to give you some insights as to what happened after the show, it is being reported, and we have seen some photos, that Imperium come out after Edge cuts his little promo to say like bye-bye to the crowd and say he's got to talk to his friends and family. Imperium comes out and interrupts Edge. Edge is kind of driven back to the ring, and right away we hear the sword. And we have Drew McIntyre on his way down to the ring, but he stops at the ramp, followed by the KO show himself, Mr. Kevin Owens. And he is followed by his tag team partner, Sami Zayn. So now we have an impromptu 6-man tag. It is announced immediately that this is the main event of the evening, but this is all fair, guys. So this is strictly for the people of Toronto. And the good guys send the crowd home happy. Drew McIntyre, Sami, and Kevin, they go home with the W, and they celebrate with Edge in the ring. And that is how SmackDown ends. So, guys, I think it was a pretty solid show. SmackDown and Raw have been on a hot streak lately. I have not had any complaints about the show itself. Obviously, I do have a couple of annoyances with the amount of video packages that we've been getting. But for the actual in-ring performance, the progression of storytelling, I think that the show itself has been spectacular. SmackDown always feels so much bigger than Raw. I don't know if it's just because it's on Fox, but it just feels like a bigger, more well-produced show. And what I will say is I'm just hoping that they continue to roll this way. And I'm hoping that Roman, Jimmy and Jay, Solo stay away from SmackDown for at minimum 3 to 4 weeks. We don't need them to come back right away, guys. I honestly don't think that's what needs to happen. All right, well, thank you so much for tuning in to Must Love Wrestling and our SmackDown recap. And next show, Tyler and I will be reviewing we will be reviewing AEW at Wembley. We will be talking all things like Cash Wheeler and the potential of him missing the show and what will happen tonight on Collision. So give us a follow on Twitter at Must Wrestling, or you could follow me on TikTok at BoricuaLou. That's BORICUA.LOU. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're out.